Have you noticed something strange? The more you try to keep everything under control, the less peaceful you feel. You tighten your schedule. You tighten your thoughts. You tighten your face, your chest, your voice. And because you are making such a tremendous effort, you assume you must be in charge. But very often what you call control is not control at all. It is tension. And tension has a very convincing disguise. It can look like responsibility. It can sound like discipline. It can even feel like intelligence. But more often than not, it is simply fear pulling the body into a knot. A man sits quietly in a chair, and outwardly nothing is happening. But inside, he is bracing against tomorrow. His jaw is slightly tight. His breath is thin. His thoughts are running in circles, rehearsing conversations, predicting disasters, trying to arrange life before life arrives. He calls this being prepared. But is he prepared? Or is he just unable to let the moment be what it is? You see, real strength does not feel like clenching. Real steadiness does not come from holding yourself rigid. It comes from something much subtler, something more like balance, more like trust. Think of a person learning to ride a bicycle. At first, he believes balance must come from stiffening. So he grips the handlebars too hard, jerks left and right, and wobbles all over the road. But the secret of riding is not freezing. It is moving. It is yielding. It is allowing the motion instead of fighting it. Life is very much like that. Most people are trying to stay upright by becoming stiff, and then they wonder why they are exhausted. I think this is one of the great misunderstandings of human life. We imagine that peace will come when we finally manage to control everything. Our feelings, our future, other people, the impression we make, the thoughts in our heads. But the more we try to force that kind of order, the more disturbed we become. Because life is not a machine. It is a rhythm. It is not something to be pinned down. It is something to be danced with. And the moment you forget that, control turns into strain. You can feel it everywhere. In the person who cannot relax because silence makes him nervous. In the one who keeps talking because stillness might reveal something. In the one who calls worry love because anxiety feels more respectable than uncertainty. In the one who thinks being tense means being serious. But tension is not depth. It is resistance. It is what happens when you do not trust the river, and so you try to hold the water in your hands. Of course, the tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips through your fingers. That is true of almost everything delicate and alive. Sleep, love, joy, confidence, even clarity. They do not come when hunted. They come when there is room for them. And yet we keep trying to improve life by tightening around it. We do it with our bodies. We do it with our minds. We do it in conversation. We do it in relationships. We hover over people. We correct the mood. We rehearse what to say. We hold back what we feel and call it composure. We manage the whole scene so carefully that nothing real can breathe. Then we wonder why we feel disconnected. But relationship is not management. It is participation. It is listening. It is leaving space for surprise. The same is true inwardly. Most people have a picture in their minds of a little controller inside the head, a serious little manager trying to hold the rest of the self together. I must stay composed. I must not fall apart. I must keep everything under control. But who is this I? And what is it trying so hard to control? The funny thing is that the controller is itself part of the whole movement. It is not standing outside the storm directing traffic. It is inside the storm, trying to command the wind with a trembling voice. And that is why so much self-control becomes inner conflict. One part of you is trying to dominate another part of you. One voice is scolding, another is resisting. One is afraid, another pretends to be strong. And you call that order. No wonder you are tired. I once watched a cat walking along a narrow wall. It was perfectly balanced, but it was not balanced because it was stiff. Quite the opposite. It was soft, alert, responsive. If that cat had tried to balance the way anxious people try to live, by overcorrecting every movement, by turning the whole body into a strategy, it would have fallen immediately. Grace does not come from tension. It comes from responsiveness. The tree bends in the wind and stays rooted. The bird lands on a branch that sways, and it does not panic because the branch moves. It moves with it. That is why it remains steady. A rigid thing breaks. A living thing adapts. So much of what people call control is really just the fear of change wearing a respectable face. It is the refusal to let anything be uncertain. It is the belief that if you stop tightening, everything will collapse. But perhaps that is the illusion. Perhaps what would collapse is not your life, but only the strain you mistook for stability. And this is why relaxing can feel so strange. After years of holding yourself in unnatural ways, ease begins to feel suspicious. You sit quietly for a moment, and instead of peace, you feel exposed. You are not used to openness. You are used to pressure. So the mind rushes in and says, "Quick, think of something. Prepare, brace, resume control." Because openness feels like falling. But you are not falling into nothing. You are falling back into life. Into the same life that beats your heart without your help. The same life that brings laughter before you can plan it. The same life that gives you the right words in a moment of honesty, though you could never have arranged them in advance. There is a wisdom in you deeper than your anxiety, but it does not appear when you are gripping yourself. It appears when the gripping stops getting in the way. Have you noticed that some of your clearest moments come after you give up struggling? Not because defeat is noble, but because the mud settles when you stop stirring the water. Then suddenly you can see. The answer comes. The breath deepens. The room feels bigger. Nothing magical has been added. Something unnecessary has quieted down. That is the real turning point. Not when you finally become perfect at controlling life, but when you begin to see that life was never asking for that kind of control in the first place. It was asking for presence, for attention, for a certain kind of courage. The courage to remain open in the middle of change. That is very different from passivity. I am not talking about drifting through life half asleep. I am talking about a deeper kind of poise. The kind a musician has when he is no longer forcing each note, but listening so closely that the music plays through him. The kind a skilled sailor has who does not command the sea, but reads its movement. The kind of ease that is not weakness, but intimacy with what is happening. And perhaps this is what we really long for. Not to dominate life, but to stop fighting it so hard. To stop confusing anxiety with care. To stop confusing tension with strength. To stop carrying tomorrow in the muscles of today. Because the future, for most people, is not an idea. It is a contraction, a tight belly, a raised shoulder, a breath that never quite arrives. We drag ourselves toward tomorrow with a body already full of resistance, and then we call that being realistic. But life is only ever now. And if you cannot be here without tightening, you will not find peace by arriving somewhere else. You will simply bring the same knot with you. So maybe the question is not, how do I control myself better? Maybe the question is, What happens if I stop mistaking tension for wisdom? And in that question, something softens. A little space appears. You notice the old habit without immediately obeying it. You feel the urge to brace, but you do not rush to serve it. And in that simple seeing, the whole system begins to loosen by itself. Not because you forced it to, because you finally stopped interfering. Then the breath comes back. Then the face softens. Then the moment is no longer an enemy. And what remains is not collapse. It is grace. A quieter kind of strength. The strength to stay open. The strength to listen. The strength to move with life instead of against it. So when you feel that familiar tightening begin again, pause for a moment. Ask yourself whether this is truly control or just fear trying to look useful. And then let the hand unclench a little. Let the breath fall. Let the world move. You do not have to hold the ocean together. You are part of the ocean. And the peace you are looking for may begin the moment you stop calling your tension intelligence.